morning, everybody. Welcome back to another ADSR stream. My name is Taetro, and today I want to do a beat making for beginners tutorial. If you remember, last week we did a lot with Ableton Live. So we did Beginner's Guide to Ableton Live, and we built up a beat that way. Today I want to focus a little less on the DAW stuff and a little more on some of the music theory side of things. Also just arrangement and structure of a beat. But I've got my iPad right down here, so I can check into chat. Actually, no matter where you are, because I'm watching YouTube chat, and then I'm also watching the restream chat, which gives me Facebook and everywhere else that the stream is at. But please let me know about levels, because I've made some changes since the last stream, so I can bring my voice up, I can bring the track up, all that. And if you have any questions or anything you just want to chat about in general, jump into the chat. But it's cool to see some people turning up. What's up, Polar? Hey, Alex. Dun JN, what's going on? Let's get after it. Yes. Capple Tapple, as usual. Welcome back. Jackson Plant, good morning. PB Sims, good morning. Mage Prometheus says, I was watching a music theory video when this music started and I jumped. Sorry about that. Sorry to startle you. What else? Actol, what's up? Oh, good morning from the US and good evening in Japan. Wow. Camilo Martinez, what is up? Brandon, nice to see you. How are you doing? Good to hear. What's going on? Yeah, a little bit of a buzzy sound. I'm going to turn this down and you guys tell me if it goes away. I believe it's like the input. I don't know what's happening there. But I just made a bunch of upgrades to my live stream setup, but unfortunately none of the equipment's coming until tomorrow. So hopefully if we do this stream next week, we will be ahead of the game. But I'm going to go ahead and bring down the input volume of one of my interfaces that's running the stream. And I'm going to just start things right away by adding a glue compressor onto live. It's master. That way we can have a nice and loud volume the whole time, and I don't have to crank up the input volume, but maybe I can do it a little bit. Cool, you guys are saying it's better. Awesome. Felipe, what is up? Greetings from Boston to Portugal. What's going on? Florent from France, nice to see you. I'm losing track of the chat. Anthony, good morning. Lost Soul, hello. C. Lopez, nice to see you. I'm sorry if I didn't say good morning to you, but good morning to everybody in the chat. I'm trying to keep up as best I can. So, beat making tutorial, very, very basic. Let's keep it basic. And to do that, I don't know if a lot of you use Ableton Live. Actually, let me know that in the chat. What DAW are you using? Live, FL Studio, Logic? I'm going to try to keep the concepts that I talk about today pretty DAW agnostic, but of course I am using Ableton Live, so that'll be difficult. But I'm just deleting all the pre-made tracks I have, and I'm going to go ahead and insert a new MIDI track. So I've got a blank MIDI track. I'm going to delete all of the fancy stuff that I have on it so you guys can follow along. And we can go one of two ways. We can make beats, like we can make the drums and the rhythm, or we can, say, make chords or a melody. Like you can start a bunch of different ways. And I just kind of go with what comes to me in the moment, and I'll start by scanning through some presets, you know? So in live, I can just go through, what do I maybe want to start with? I don't usually start with melody, but it might be cool to start with something melodic. So let's browse through some sounds and see what inspires us. Let me know how the volume of those sounds are, because I can turn things up too. I like something like that. Very cool. Oh yeah, Machine. I didn't mention that. FL Studio Machine. Very cool. I just started using the Machine Mark III. It's really dope. Cubase. Nice. Ableton 10, Ableton, FL Studio. So a healthy mix. Cool. So yeah, we will try to keep this as musical and less like DAW specific as possible. But I do have a MIDI keyboard in front of me, the Akai MPK Mini. It's just like a really versatile controller, and I figure it's best to demo it because I think it's one of the most popular controllers. Cool, very cool. So as you can see right there, the sound that you're hearing is actually a minor chord. And music theory is very important in beat making. So don't skip out on some of the music theory knowledge. I'm going to explain a little bit as I go here, but nothing as comprehensive as, training I've had and what will actually benefit you the most. So, right, like what I said, I'm playing a minor chord, which is the root of a chord. I'm playing C sharp, E, which is the third, G sharp, which is the fifth, and I'm just playing those 3 notes. Then I might throw some notes in between, like this F sharp. So there, I'm literally just improvising around that C sharp minor scale, C sharp minor chord. This is where scales will actually come into play. And as you can hear, I'm not just like playing randomly in time. I have a tempo in mind. So dun, 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 dun. If I can count that out in my head, most DAWs have a tap tempo button. So I can just tap along. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I don't think I want 0.56. I think I just want 106 or maybe even 105, somewhere around there. But now that we have a general starting point, I can set the tempo of my project, turn my metronome on, and play along. Sounds a little slow, so my tapping wasn't quite perfect. I can bring it up a few points, maybe to 112. Awesome. I will probably record that and we'll start with a melody just like that. So the reason I'm able to do this is I'm comfortable on the keyboard. I understand scales. I'm comfortable enough across different scales that I was able to just sit down and play that initial C sharp minor chord, and it sounded pretty good. So I just went with it and started improvising. Found a tempo, and now we're going to record our first musical idea. That didn't take long. I really just jumped in, found a preset that I liked, let that preset kind of guide what direction I went, and now we're doing it. Boom, that's our first idea. I hit spacebar to stop looping, but here we go. Here's our musical idea. I'm going to hit Command-Shift-U. This is DAW specific, but I'm quantizing. So I want to quantize it to a 16th note grid. Basically lock everything up in time. How's chat doing? How do we feel about this starting melody? Let me know, guys. We're going to start messing with it too. Chris Angelo Perez from Manila. What is up, my friend? Bailey Barnes says, should you EQ before or after compression? Well, it depends. A lot of the music production questions are going to be, it depends. Let's answer that question using this melody, first of all. And let's start with an EQ. I'll use EQ 8. So if I drop EQ 8 on here and we watch the sound, like we watch the waveform. So I'm seeing a lot of content down here in this lower section, and this is really a melody that should be sitting somewhere on the middle top. I don't really need any of these frequencies, so I'm going to get rid of them. You can notice that you're not really hearing much of a sound change. At a certain point you will, probably starting now. Yeah, now you start to hear it. I might even not cut out, but lower this lower end. So there, what we've done is we've swept out a ton of the low frequencies and also just kind of did a shelf that is going to bring down some of the mid to low frequencies. Now let's talk about a compressor. What I would use a compressor for would be to even out the dynamics of this sound. So instead of having like loud and soft sections, it's going to sound a lot more consistent throughout. That's what a compressor does. It compresses. You have soft sounds down here. You have loud sounds up here. The more you compress, the more you bring those two closer together. So I'll bring my threshold down just a bit, just to do a very basic compression. It's going to make it louder too. So you can hear some of those top notes, they're higher in pitch and they're also coming out a bit louder, except when you turn the compressor on, it makes everything a little bit more even. Now, your question was EQ or compressor first. Well, what I wanted to do was get rid of these low frequencies and not have it be muddy and then even out the dynamics. Why would I add the compressor before the EQ? Because what the compressor is going to do here before the EQ is going to compress all the sound, even all this low junk that we don't need. So I might as well do the EQ first in this situation, get rid of any sound I don't want anyway, then compress my musical idea, my sound. Does that make sense? Hopefully. But yeah, of course, like Actol says, like if you're working in a bus, like there's certain situations where it's different. It depends. Especially if you're working with groups of sounds. But yeah. I mean, there's also the matter of this instrument rack is filled with effects. So now the compressor and the EQ are on top of all the effects. But you can see there's chorus, saturator, amp, EQ8, delay. There's already EQ in there. Delay, reverb, and there's a compressor in there as well. So there's already like stuff baked in and we just put stuff on top. So that's a whole nother can of worms, you know? But let's start manipulating the sound a little bit. You know, just because we're using a preset doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It also doesn't mean we have to stick with the exact sound of the preset. We have lots of options for shaping the sound here, which we'll probably come back to later. Space obviously changes the character of the sound immensely. Notice that the space knob is changing the delay and the reverb. Whoa, that's different. This is a pretty universal concept. Attack and release, which you'll see on a lot of synths, regardless of what DAW you're using or hardware. Attack is that initial hit of the note. So let me just demonstrate that. So I can hear it like a mallet hitting a key. If I turn that attack up, it's going to more fade in the sound. And the higher the value, the more of a fade in it is. Release is what happens after you lift off that note. I almost like the high attack sound. What do you guys think? Now, it's usually by now, I would probably add some drums. If I didn't start with drums, I get an initial idea and start adding some drums. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to make a new MIDI track. I'm getting rid of any processing that I would normally put because I want this to be really, really basic. And now I would build up a drum rack. Now, of course, your DAW or Ableton Live specifically has plenty of kits to choose from. They may or may not be what you want. I feel a little bit limited using some of these pre-made kits. And also, it's gonna lock you into a certain sound. There's nothing wrong with it. Like I use these kits forever. Like this one doesn't even sound bad. There's going to be stuff in it I can't use, but let's see. Oh. How many snares do we need? All right, so scratch everything I said about that. This kit actually fits really perfectly with this melodic sound, with the feel I'm going for. You might notice that, like, making this track, it's already a certain style. It's a hip-hop style. And that's going to come from your influences, what you listen to. I listen to some hip-hop, I listen to rock, I listen to a lot of different things, but for beat music specifically, I'm drawing on all those different influences and already locking into a style here. So I'm not kind of all over the place. You don't hear me playing like a jazz beat over this melody or something. Even though that might be cool, it might not actually fit the way we want. So let's break down what comprises this rhythm that I'm playing right here. It's mostly kick, snare, and hi-hat. That's the core of it. Along the way, you'll hear some flourishes, some fills, we'll call them, with other snares. And I'm really just using what's available to me. I have 8 pads here, and I just started playing the automatic configuration. But let's lay down the backbone of that beat piece by piece, starting with kick and snare. Cool. So that's a very basic backbone. Let's take a look at it. At the very core of it, we've got a snare hitting on beat 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that way that I'm counting is actually represented not only by the tempo, but it's represented right here by these numbers at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you notice that this switches to 2 because that's telling us it's a second bar. So this is bar 1. This is bar 2. This whole thing right here. This is bar 3. And this is bar 4. Therefore, you have 4.2.3.4, meaning beat 2 of bar 4, beat 3 of bar 4, beat 4 of bar 4. And then within this little grid, you see it's chopped up into much smaller pieces in between because those are called subdivisions. But we'll keep today's tutorial super basic. So, snare on the beat 3 for the most part. Everywhere we go, we see 1.3, there's a snare. 2.3, there's a snare. 3.3, there's a snare. Things get freaky in the 4th bar. Then we have a nice solid downbeat on with our kicks. The kick is what holds down 1. Dun, dun. It's a little stylish at the end, but let's say if we were just looking at the first 2 bars, it would sound pretty normal. We've got kick, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what actually makes this beat a little more unique and have a little more of a style to it is that we miss this downbeat on purpose. So let's put the downbeat back in. It works either way, but with it not there, it's implied that it's there. We feel that it's not there, you know? So the rule is kick on 1, snare on 3. But rules are meant to be broken, and you see that exemplified here. Listen to the music that you listen to and really analyze it. If you analyze just the drums of a track you really like and count it out in beats, where is the kick falling? Where is the snare falling? What kind of fills are they doing? Which brings me to my next point. So basically what I'm doing, if you watch this piano roll go by, is I'm filling in the gaps with fills. Fills, filling in the gaps. That was a bad one, because I was trying to talk at the same time. So let's record that now with fills. But what I do want to do is keep my musical ideas, keep versions of my musical ideas to use them later in the arrangement. So I'm going to duplicate this drum loop that I have. And now it's identical, but I'm going to hit my session record button and overdub the fills onto it. I'm going to jump into chat right after I record this. If you got questions, dive in. There, what I did was really just accented the snare that was already there. But you notice where these fills are happening. So I call them fills. We basically have... So we have our kick, we have our main snare. Then we have nothing happening until fill. Boom. We have kick, main snare, a vocals chop, which I will count as a fill. Love that decap sample. Then we have kick, snare, blank space. We filled it with a fill. Here, this is a lot more busy. We've got our kick, we've got our snare. It's busier than what we had before. We emphasize that snare hit. And now we've got a melody and a couple drum loops. So chat, how are you doing? I gotta take some of my coffee. It's early here. All right, yeah, and the higher drive. Yeah, you guys are talking about the compression stuff. Yeah, it's a matter of preference, I suppose. I am only working in arrangement view in Ableton Live. Is there a big difference? So for Ableton users out there, obviously do what's most comfortable for you. I like working in Ableton session view because it's a little more like a sketch pad. So if I'm just coming up with ideas, like I don't already have a track in mind, like a verse, chorus, whatever structure, I work in the sketch pad, the session view. If I had a song written, like if I was sitting with my guitar and I was writing like a pop tune, I would record that in arrangement view over time. And if you, as a beat maker, work in arrangement view over time, you're actually probably more apt to finishing your tracks because you're working on a timeline. You can have a track start and you can have a track end, where in session view, you've got all loops. So I like using the sketchpad of session view, but you have to have that discipline of bringing the loops into arrangement view. So is it a problem for you using arrangement view? No, I don't think so. Especially if you're not performing live. That's the other use of session view, is live looping and all that stuff. But yeah, good question, Florent, for sure. Yeah, just like DJ Kevin said, whatever makes your work feel comfortable for you. That's the thing. Like a lot of people say there's a right and a wrong way to do something. I think it's what it is for you, you know? Joshua in the Facebook chat asks, will this video be able to be viewed after the stream is done? Yes, it will, on ADSR's YouTube channel. Yep. When making these drum beats, what would happen if you make the MIDI notes longer? Or is it enough to have them slim like they currently are? Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So, here's the drum rack. This is where my drum samples are. Wow, that kick is great. So, notice this kick sample. Let's do something else. The snare sample. So it's short, right? When I press this trigger, when I trigger that snare, notice that orange line that jumps right through the sample? It's playing the whole sample. I'm not holding it down and it's playing the whole sample. I'm pressing it and it's still playing the whole sample. That's because it is in one-shot mode. One-shot mode is like a classic MPC kind of style where you play a sample and it plays the whole thing. You press it once, you don't have to hold the pad, it will play the whole sample that's in there. With a snare, that's fine because it's just short sample anyway. If I switched over to classic mode, or if I actually, what I meant to say is, if I switch this to gate mode, this is not the easiest sample to demonstrate this with, but if you notice, if I let go, it's not playing the whole sample anymore. It's only playing how long I hold it for. It doesn't really matter with a snare, but let's play something else that's longer. Yeah, this one. So this little snare hit, right? It's playing the whole thing. I'm not holding it down. Let me switch that to gate mode. It's not. I gotta hold it down to play the whole thing. So that is a difference within the drum rack of how the simpler within drum rack handles these samples. So for default, they're really set to trigger. It is triggering these one shots. You don't have to hold them down. But if I switch that, so that can be useful for some. But since they are all set to that, it really doesn't matter the length of these MIDI notes. These MIDI notes could be this long. It's not going to change the sound. Or they could be this short. Hopefully that makes sense. So it really depends on how you're handling the sample. And there are uses for both. For sure. Hopefully that answered your question, Camilo. But good question. Thank you. MIDI drums, which do you prefer? MIDI drums or audio drums, which do you prefer? I swear by MIDI because I don't really see many advantages to dragging and dropping audio. Thoughts? I swear by MIDI. So it depends. I'm playing out my... I think I know what you mean, Actal. I'm going to do my best to answer this. So within all these samples, there's audio. So these are technically audio, but I'm sequencing them with MIDI, right? And I like to play my own musical ideas initially. Like there's a lot of ways that I use samples. And there's nothing wrong with using samples. But for a beat or something, I like to come up with my own beat, you know? This pattern is unique. We've heard things similar before, but I just came up with it now. And whether or not there's an exact beat like this out there, it's completely possible. But I made this one. I made it. And that dictates the feel of my track. That's, for me as an artist, that's important. But now let's say I wanted to add hi-hats. I don't want to sit here and tap out a bunch of hi-hats when I kind of know what pattern I want already. So I might look for a hi-hat loop. Play my beat. I'm just looking for something that works. I could very easily play these patterns in. I like that one. Dragging it in. Getting rid of the processing on it for now. And so now I'm using both, right? So I'm using audio, I'm using MIDI. There's some projects where I'll drag whole drum loops on, especially if it's like a acoustic drum loops for sure. Like there's only so much you can do with MIDI. I mean, there's some great samples out there. What am I looking for, Pax? And if I wanted like a really cool break, like I'm not going to recreate this acoustic sampled sound, you know, with MIDI, or it's going to be very challenging to do that. So if I am looking for really cool breaks or something, or really cool acoustic backbeats, I can dig in here. I can dig in samples. But for beats in general that I make, programming them myself is really important for me. And then adding sample stuff on top. But there's no right or wrong way. How do you make dark trap beat melody? I don't know. Are we talking about this melody? We did that at the top. Let me know what you mean. Go more specific. Now you need to add a pad, Capel says. Yeah, we'll do that next for sure. I have my guitar, I have my amp. Next, I need to buy gear to hook up and choose a DAW. What do you recommend? Since you have a guitar and you have an amp, you're going to want an audio interface. And I would highly recommend the Focusrite Scarlett line. So there's the Scarlett Solo, which has a mic input and a line input. So you can plug your guitar right in, or you could plug a microphone in and mic your guitar. That would be a good fit for you. And then you need to choose a DAW. Look around at some videos, see what the artists that you listen to are using. I love Ableton Live, but maybe you would want something different. If you're thinking about processing your guitar and you want to try Ableton Live, there is a 90-day free trial up right now on Ableton. They extended it. So you can use Ableton for 3 months now. And for guitarists, you go to Audio Effects. There's Amp. Like, I'll just show you what this looks like really quick. Amp, Cab, and even Pedal. So you can plug your guitar right into Ableton Live and play right through all this. And it's got different types of amps, different types of cabs, and different settings for pedal. You have a whole setup right there with no extra plugins required. Everything's just built into Ableton Live, and you can try it for free before you buy anything. So I guess that would probably be the way to go. Moving right along, chat. Yeah, Florence says doesn't prevent being stuck in loops. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Does Ableton have any benefits over FL Studio? I'm not sure. I don't use FL Studio, but probably. What's the best way to sample drums? Simpler, sampler, contact? All of the above. All are great options. Simpler is a simpler version of sampler, so it depends how deep you want to go. I didn't even think about the top end loops. Yep. How to pitch the hi-hats. Very easy in Ableton Live. We look at our sample, double clicked it here. I've got a transpose knob here. This is another unique way to make the samples our own. So I really liked actually how I was changing the pitch over time. By the way, this is how you change the pitch. Transpose right here. So let's actually make that a permanent thing. I want to turn on envelope here, or automation, I should say. And I get this nice line. It's on transpose, I can see right here. Let's bring it down. And then we'll bring it back up. I think 10 was like the... How does that sound? So not only can we just change the general pitch of the sample, but we can change it over time. Good question. You guys are really taking the lead today. I appreciate it. Which version of Ableton do I have? I have Ableton Live Suite, the latest. I'm actually running the beta version, but it's pretty much the same. But you can get this exact software that I'm using right now for free for 90 days at ableton.com. So you should all take advantage of that for sure. I'm jumping into the Restream chat. Can you split the drums on separate audio, separate channels? I think you can mix the drums, like compression, blah, blah, blah. Yep. All that stuff. So actually, Ableton does this. Ableton already's got this covered for you because the drum kits, which this is the drum kit right here, is actually a group. I can unfold it, and boom, there's all of my samples on their own channel. You can even solo. And within each one of these, see, that's just the kick sample. You can add effects to it. Easy. Just like that. So if you wanted to add a specific compressor to your kick, you could do that. That's one way to access it. The other way you could unfold it like that, and that's fine. The other way to do that, like say you wanted to add a specific, I'm not going to actually add anything to my kick because I think it sounds dope already. But say I wanted to add a drum bus, like some grittiness to our kick drum. Where the heck are we? Where's drum bus? I can just click drum bus and drag it on the kick. And now that it's on the kick, if I click over to the snare, you see it's not there. So that's just going, on that individual sample. Make sense? So you can either unfold it like that and see them all on different tracks, or you can drag specific effects on here. unfolding it is actually helpful for mixing and stuff for sure. Good question. Talking about gain staging, like setting everything so it has a good gain. The reason I'm kind of blasting everything right now is because the issue with this stream, and I don't want the buzz to happen, so hopefully the buzz has gone away. But in reality, if I was working on this project in terms of gain staging, I would have started everything like down here. Every track would have started at -12. Because I know later I'm going to add some mastering, and to make the stream nice and loud for you guys, I've got a mastering compressor on here anyway. So this is not a perfect mix and master tutorial, but shall we get back into the beat making? I think I breezed through some comments, and you guys are actually asking really great questions today. J Ranks, that's a good question. Let me add one more layer and I will answer that question for sure. So Capel suggested we added a pad. Pads are like these really thick, lush synth sounds. I'll kind of demonstrate some presets for you. I'm just digging in Live's default presets today. Different characteristics. But overall, pads are really like long, lush sounds. I like that. Let's give it a shot. I don't know if it'll work, but... So now, remember when we started, I said I'm playing C minor. I'm going to play a C minor chord. But I'm going to actually on the track I'm working on. Come on. Odd. Sometimes you load up a preset. There we go. This is a bad example. I feel like I'm not really hearing this sample. I mean the synth on the right note. So I'm gonna switch to a different sample. Different synth. Wow, I can't get it right today. I'll try that. So now I'm really, yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like tuning of many AL presets is just odd. You are right, Ludovico. So I'm already in my head, and I can't stress this enough. This comes from my music theory background. I did study music in college before I started doing electronic music there, but not in a real way like today. But I'm already hearing the chord progression. I'm hearing that C sharp minor, C sharp, E, G sharp. But then I'm hearing it go to another chord. And when I say I'm hearing it in my head. And I'm hearing it go to that F sharp. And the reason I know this is because I know how to play a minor scale starting from anywhere on the keyboard. And you should be able to do that too. You can learn along the way, but it's a useful skill to have. So notice that I'm not playing fast. I'm just kind of holding these chords. I'm not getting in the way of any of the other rhythms in the track. It's more of like a bed to lay on. So you want to have this nice mixture of, we got the drums. The drums are their own thing. We've got those short little hi-hats. We've got the booming bass drum, kick drum. And then the melody has a lot of motion in it. It's moving fast. I don't want to add really another fast moving thing unless it's, you know, just like we talked about with the drum fills filling in the space, unless we can come up with a counter melody that also moves fast, we want to keep the other layers long. So especially the pad, let's play chords and let's hold them. It's a bed for the melody to lay on. If you want your beats to hit hard, if you want hard hitting beats, we're not doing that much sound design today, but we're mostly talking about musical ideas. But I can't stress this enough. This is easy enough to do. Just throw a sidechain compressor on here. And I explain this on ADSR streams, on my own videos, millions of times. But for those of you who don't know, a sidechain compressor is a compressor that we are going to connect to our kick drum. And it's going to take the signal from the kick drum. So I'm finding it here in Candler Kit. I'm going to find that kick drum, kick thud, and we see our compressor. It's getting that kick drum right there. And if I bring down the threshold now, my melody is now ducking under the kick. When we do that to all these layers, even the hi-hats, even the pad, it makes everything gel together, and it gives the impression that your kick is hitting way harder than it actually is, even though this kick is hitting so hard, you know? Walker asks, most of the time when I load up a piano, they sound kind of shitty. Yeah, I mean, let's A/B test that real quick. Grand piano. If I look up, let's find a normal grand piano. That's like a synth sound. This one, Bright Solo. So in Ableton Live Suite, there's some really decent pianos. Oh, I actually deleted the presets off my computer because they were huge. I don't think I'm going to be able to play them. No, I can't play the Ableton default ones, but one plugin I can recommend, and somebody, DJ Kevin, said Alicia Keys piano. Another plugin, which of course everybody uses the Alicia Keys piano. Another plugin that I like to use, JKLMNOP, come on. It's an Arturia plugin. There we go. Lots of different modeled pianos in here. That's not it. Boom. Here we go. And that's just like the initial American one. I'm just going to scroll through and find something. Japanese, small room. Let's find something more intense. You can hear the difference in character there of an upright piano. I wouldn't add piano to this, but I was just messing around. Cool. But yeah, that's my answer to that. Alicia Keys piano is what everybody uses. The Arturia piano sounds great as well. Chat, how we doing? Cool. Did I miss a question in Facebook chat? I think so. Oh, I did say I was going to answer that stream question too. So, let's play the beat in the background while we do this. So, my horrible setup right now for streaming is two interfaces. Because because I'm streaming and using this computer for Ableton at the same time, which is not ideal. But right now, I have a big interface, which is what Ableton Live uses. Ableton Live is sending music to my headphones, and it's sending music out to a second interface, which is what OBS, the streaming software, uses. Both connected to my computer, just in the software is set differently. And then I have an input for the track that you're hearing, and I have an input for my microphone in the OBS interface. And that's basically it. It's not the best setup. I'm upgrading the setup soon, but cool. What's happening, chat? Would you recommend tuning the drums? Totally. I mean, with some drums, it's harder, but your drums will hit so much harder if you tune them. So like if this was resonating at a C sharp, let's see, where are we at? We could find a tuner. So Ableton Live has a tuner built in. I'm sure most DAWs do. I drop it right on the kick, and let's see if it gives us any note information. It doesn't, right? Because this is so... This is a drum that I can't really hear any note. I know it's resonating at some notes for sure. And you can even use the EQ to look at it. And figure out like what frequency the note is, but yes, your drums will hit like in some cases a lot harder, or in some cases like 5% harder if you just tune them to the key, especially if they have a more tonal quality than this kick does. Yeah, so guys, I don't want to take... I'm glad we had a lot of chat today, but we've got like 10 more minutes, and one thing I will do is just analyze kind of what we have here. So we've got a melody, which has motion in it. We've got our pounding drums. We've got our hi-hats, which are setting like a frantic staccato pace, staccato meaning short. And then we've got our pads, which are laying down some chords. And those are kind of in the lower mid. The melody is floating somewhere between mid, low mid, high mid. You know, it's kind of, maybe it's just directly in the middle. But we don't have anything in the high register. So let's find one more. Oh, and we don't have a bass. Let's find a bass first. I was going to say let's do something in the high register, but I'm saying let's go bass first. We need something, and this is going to be super simple anyway. I'm going to do a super simple bass line. Let's find a bass sound. Oh, imagine that. That sounds dumb. Let's do it. Oh, not like that. Hello? This is where throwing that sidechain compressor on is going to help a lot. I actually don't like it. Too dumb. I want something really simple. Maybe that'll work. Nah, it's got too much motion. Might want to go an octave up. Boom bass, maybe. That's more trying to be a 808, which is not what I want. See, that one's not even the right root note. Not what I want. Just searching through the bass sounds. Want to keep it simple. Honestly. That's an example of taking a preset. Sounds sharp and bright and distorted. But being able to hear that, all right, if I just filter out those high frequencies, I can use it the way I want. And just to add a little more motion. Oh, and by the way, the notes that I'm playing are just following the chords. C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, F sharp. If I add more motion, I can play the octaves. C sharp up here, F sharp here, and then walk back down to the C sharp. Messed up. Let's record that because that's just a super simple idea. Bassline, easy, follow the chords. Important thing, don't let these bass notes glide over each other because it'll get really messy and muddy. Let's go legato. What was I going to add? Something in the higher register, which could be another synth pad, but also let's not sleep on the ideas that we already have musically. So maybe let's try taking this melody and giving it to a different instrument up an octave. And let's do something that's like bells or chimes, because right now everything is very synthy. Very synthy. It's synthy, but it's a little mellow too. This is very synthy. What I mean by that, it's like straight up synthetic. Like I can hear the grit of a machine, you know? And I want something a little more that gives a quote unquote organic vibe. So despite this being not a sampled bell, let me hear what it sounds like with the melody on it. And like I said, if we put it up an octave, select all, shift up. If we now combine it, let's see what it sounds like. I think that's what I'm looking for. I might even wash it out with some more reverb. Nah, maybe not. And this works. I could have gone one of two ways. So, like I talked about before, everything was kind of mid to low frequency range in terms of where it sat in the sound. You know, the synth, the drums, the hi-hats, the pads, and the bass. It's all mid and low. So when we add one more layer, we don't want to stack too much in a single range. We want to add on top of that. And I didn't even put the sidechain on it yet. With sidechain, it's gonna sound dope. Someone teach me how to sidechain. All right, DJ Kevin. I did explain this earlier, but let's go through it one more time. I'm going to delete this. So you take a compressor, go to audio effects, DAW agnostic, right? Find your compressor in your DAW. Somewhere on the compressor, we'll have an option for sidechain. In live, we hit this arrow. It opens up this other menu, and lo and behold, sidechain. So now we're saying like, all right, we're not just using this to compress the sound. We need a signal. It needs to receive a signal from somewhere else to trigger the compressor. The signal we want it to receive is our kick drum. So then we open up this, it says audio from, open this drop-down menu, find your drum kit. Or find whatever sound you want to be sidechaining from. And then dig deeper, because we have to go deeper or else it's sidechaining every single drum hit. We just want the kick. Find your kick in this long list. This is all the samples within your drum rack, and it's pre-mix, post-mix. Pre-effects, post-effects, and post-mixer, yeah. So find that. It doesn't really matter in this case. I'm just going to do pre-effects. Now we see the compressor. It's receiving signal from the kick drum. You notice that threshold pumping with the kick. We bring that threshold down. The farther down we bring it, the more we'll hear that pump. You can also do like stuff like gain. You can mess with the attack and the release, just like other compressors, just like normal compression. But that's very basic sidechaining. Yeah, Capel, we'll get the Keylab out for our live stream soon. Don't worry. Camilo, do you sidechain all your instruments to the kick? Usually, especially in this kind of music. Chat, we're coming to the end. How do we feel about this beat? That is very basic, how to come up with these ideas for making a beat. Whether or not you like it or not. I see some people don't like the bells, but this is a Taetro beat. When you make your beat, you won't add the bells. But the bottom line of adding these bells is that everything existed in low to mid range. We needed something high on top. So even if you don't like the bells, let's do one more thing. I might add another synth pad. Go to instruments, pad. Like I said, pads are these long, lush instruments. Something that, if you notice something has a chord in it, you might want to avoid it. Let's try that. Just for, I added an audio track instead of a MIDI track. If you notice a preset has a chord quality to it, like it's playing more than one note at a time, you want to avoid, unless you want that specific thing. Now, just for fun, let's take these chords that we already played for the other pad, and instead of doing more than once, I want single chords. And then I want them long. But I want them high. So let's go Command A, Shift up. That's so much. And we can switch out the sound after we hear this, because I think that this might not be the perfect fit, but let's hear it anyway. Kind of fits. And since it's higher, I'm hearing it a lot more, so I'm going to bring it down in the mix. But maybe that's a more palatable option for a higher frequency. The point was, even if you didn't like the bells, that we add something up in that higher register. I like the bells. Make you guys listen to just the bells for the rest of the stream. Doesn't hurt to have both. 7 layers, guys. That's it. I'm not stacking on stacking on stacking. We've got our melody. Let's just label this real quick so you guys can see the parts. This is our melody. This is our high bells. This is our high pads. This is our drums. This is also drums. Call it hi-hat. This is our main pad. And this is our bass. Basically, that's kind of the anatomy of the beat right there. You've got your melody. You've got your drums. Your rhythm with hi-hat as well. We can count these all as one. Let's group that. Let's group this. So, like I said, you've got melody. You've got drums. You've got a pad, which are playing chords for the bed to lie on. And an alternative to using a pad would be a keyboard instrument like a piano or, Rhodes or something. You've got your bass line, which is following those chords. And then we add the icing on the cake, which is that higher register stuff. Notice how everything has its place. The bass is the rock bottom, along with the kick. Then the pads are soft and kind of in the middle, mid-high. The melody is what's catching our ear. And then everything just fits together like a puzzle. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, definitely spend the night messing around some sounds. I did not go over arrangement today, guys, but if you want, if we're doing a stream next week, I will save this project and I will hit arrange next week ADSR and we'll put it in recordings. So if you want, we will record this next week. We will arrange this next week. We'll do some frills, but the bass is there. So what I would challenge you to do between this week and next week is go make a beat in the same kind of template. Get your melody, get your high icing on the cake, get your drums and rhythm, your chord or pad, and then your rock solid bass. Make something like that in session view. Come back next week and we will work on how to arrange these into completed tracks. I think that makes sense. So let's dip into the chat again just to say, hey, did I make the drums? Yep. Well, did I make the drums? What do you mean? I did not skin the lamb and then make the drums and then sample those drums and then process them. I took a drum kit from Ableton Live and I played it with my MIDI keyboard. I don't know if that constitutes making, for sure. Yep. DJ Kevin, yo, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. I was trying to use automation to do just the hi-hat, but I figured how they attack the instrument. Okay, nice. Do you keep the sounds in an external hard drive? Some sounds, yes. For the most part, my core library of like plugins and stuff is on my hard drive, and that's basically the only thing I keep on my hard drive is my DAW. For like videos and stuff, everything's on hard drives. But for my sounds, my collection of sounds and plugins, it can pretty much all fit on my computer. Good question. Pack samples, presets, live sets, etc. Yeah, that all gets saved on my computer directly to it. But everybody, I hope you enjoyed this live stream with ADSR. If you don't know who I am, my name is Taetro. I have my own YouTube channel, which if you go to youtube.com/Taetro, Taetro, or if you just type it in the YouTube search bar, you will find me. I had a tutorial come out this week. I've got beat videos coming out every Tuesday. I also do a beat of the week with ADSR. You can see it on my Instagram, ADSR's channel, ADSR's Instagram, all that. You can add me on Instagram at Taetro. DM me, even on Twitter, at Nick Taetro. Let me know you came from the stream, especially if this is your first time seeing me. It was really great to meet some of you. I saw some new names, saw some familiar names, which is really great. So I hope this was helpful. Again, next week, you want to play along, put together your beat with these core elements in session view or in loop view, whatever DAW you use, and we will go ahead and work on arranging this beat. Roman, it's okay, Roman. It's going to be up. on YouTube after we're done watching. So go to ADSR's YouTube channel, and when the stream goes off, it'll take a few minutes to process. It'll probably be up. But guys, this has been another ADSR stream. I really appreciate you all for hanging out, especially if you were in here from the beginning to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this beat that we made today. And next time you see me live, the setup's going to be 10 times better, I promise. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll see you all next week for an arrangement project. But thanks so much for watching. This has been Taetro. Have a good one.